Welcome to another video from Mundo Militar. Today we're going to break down what lies behind Operation Southern Spear, the newest U.S. offensive against narcoterrorism, allegedly linked to the Venezuelan government of Nicolás Maduro. On Thursday, November 13th, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth publicly announced the operation, explaining that its main objective is to dismantle narco-terrorist networks that, according to Washington, have been supplying the United States with massive quantities of illicit drugs. The secretary stated that the impact of these criminal organizations has already exceeded the limit of what is tolerable, fueling a chemical dependency crisis that is causing irreversible damage to American society. The operation is under the fascists that is causing irreversible damage to American society. The operation is under the direct command of the United States Southern Command, SOUTHCOM, responsible for all U.S. military activity in Latin America and the Caribbean. Although the initial focus is the Caribbean, the area of operations covers over 30 countries in the region, including Brazil, which has cooperated for years with U.S.-led counter-narcotics operations. According to the Secretary, Southern Spear is a response to a regional coordination of hostile regimes, which he claims are using drug trafficking as a political tool and an economic weapon against the United States. This statement raised alarms among international analysts, as the rhetoric suggests that Washington sees drug trafficking not merely as organized crime, but as a geopolitical instrument aligned with ideological adversaries. Despite the official announcement, it is still unclear whether the operation is simply an expansion of missions already underway in the Caribbean, or whether the Pentagon has indeed launched a new, more aggressive offensive with the potential to escalate military tensions within South America. One of the most significant confirmations is the reinforcement of the U.S. Navy's Fourth Fleet. The arrival of the strike group led by the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS Gerald Herford represents a major increase in military capability in the region. Surrounding it, advanced destroyers and a fast-attack nuclear submarine form one of the most powerful naval formations deployed to the Southern Hemisphere in recent years. This deployment was not planned in advance. Reports indicate that the strike group was hastily withdrawn from the Mediterranean, demonstrating the level of priority the White House is assigning to the Venezuelan situation. The presence of electronic surveillance aircraft, carrier-based fighters, and naval intelligence units further strengthens the scale of the operation. Although the official discourse focuses on fighting drug trafficking, it is clear that tensions between the United States and the Maduro regime have been escalating since the beginning of the year. In recent months alone, U.S. forces near the Caribbean have carried out around 20 attacks against vessels suspected of involvement in trafficking. At least 80 people were killed in these actions, which Washington refers to as operations to protect American citizens. The presence of strategic B-52 and B-1 bombers routinely flying near Venezuelan airspace has sparked international concern. The question many analysts are asking is simple: why employ long-range bombers in an operation supposedly aimed at countering drug trafficking? These aircraft, capable of carrying cruise missiles and precision-guided bombs, are primarily used in conventional warfare scenarios. This reinforces suspicion that Operation Southern Spear is pursuing something beyond counter-drug efforts. Trump further escalated the tension by stating on November 14th that he has already decided what to do with Venezuela, but refused to reveal details. The comment, coming from the Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Armed Forces, increases uncertainty about what may happen next. If Washington opts for direct action, potential targets would be carefully selected. Venezuela has strategic air bases, such as El Libertador and Santa Barbara, which house most of the country's combat aviation. These bases also store heavy weaponry, including Russian air defense systems, attack helicopters, and long-range munitions. Command centers such as the Ministry of Defense and major military headquarters in Caracas would be priority targets in an initial wave of strikes, as hitting them would severely disrupt the Venezuelan armed forces command and control structure. Beyond these facilities, there is also the direct fight against narco-trafficking. Venezuela, according to international reports, has become a major exit route for drugs heading towards Central America and Mexico. Organizations like the Cartel de los Soles are frequently cited as key components of this criminal network, allegedly supported by influential figures within the Chavez regime. In this context, laboratories, clandestine airstrips in remote areas, and improvised ports would likely be destroyed in a potential U.S. air offensive. Another crucial element is oil. Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, and its production, although reduced, still represents a major source of geopolitical influence. Refineries, pipelines, and export terminals could become targets. But experts believe Trump would avoid attacking them in order not to damage the economic potential of a future post-Maduro Venezuela. Thus, the scope of the operation would depend directly on the strategic intention of the United States. If the goal is strictly counter-narcotic, the strikes would be limited and focused. If the intention is regime change, the attack would be broad, systematic, and devastating. The Venezuelan armed forces are already on high alert, but their ability to withstand waves of long-range missile strikes is limited. Although they possess Russian S-300 air defense systems, their real effectiveness against simultaneous high-precision attacks is questionable. Washington, meanwhile, is expected to avoid deploying ground troops in the initial phases, preferring airstrikes, naval blockades, and limited special operations, a common pattern in recent U.S. military interventions. Additionally, economic motivations cannot be ignored. Maduro, in a move interpreted as political desperation, reportedly offered the United States unrestricted access to Venezuela's oil reserves in exchange for remaining in power. Trump declined, indicating that the U.S. wants both the resources and a government aligned with its interests, with Southern Spear gaining momentum and an increasing number of U.S. military assets positioned in the Caribbean. Tensions surrounding Venezuela have reached unprecedented levels in recent years. Analysts warn that the situation could evolve quickly, either toward forced negotiations or direct confrontation. There is still no clarity on the final outcome. But one thing appears increasingly evident: pressure on Maduro will not ease, and the risk of a military clash between the United States and Venezuela, once considered unlikely, is now a real possibility.
He doesn't want to around with the United States.
Do you authorize CIA operations in Venezuela as part of
Well, I wouldn't say that, but some interesting things are happening around the world, I'll say that.
Mr. President, it has been reported that Maduro offered everything in his country, all the natural resources. He even recorded a message to you in English recently, offering mediation. What should we do in order to stop that?
He has offered everything. He's offered everything. You're right. You know why? Because he doesn't want to around with the United States.